very hectic.
It was this time round. It was we had to have bodyguards all around.
You did
It
see
got-
some of the kitchens, though, didn't we?
In fact, yes, and we were sort of reduced to travelling in laundry lifts and things like that. But the price of fame, they told me.
But this must become tremendously confining after a little while.
It was very claustrophobic, yeah.
Oh, we
It was nice.
just-
Roger and I managed to get away a couple of days early to over here in Perth, and nobody knew we were here. We just went out on the beach and couldn't believe that it was quiet and peace, and had a good time.
I've seen a lot. I've read of the rest. Freddie at Live Aid and Queen in general at Live Aid is probably the best domination of an audience I've ever seen. I was one of the broadcasters of that event, and Queen come on, and you hear the audience going completely nuts. You know what it's like when you're in a theater or any type of crowd and you suddenly get the feeling that everyone is thinking the same thing.
Everyone was looking around saying, well, they've done it, haven't they? You know, it was extraordinary.
They're stealing the show. All the artists backstage, who had, of course, their own egos, their own sense of pride, they're stealing the show. And they were.
And everybody said they stole the show. They were so amazing.
And Live Aid, the last performance Freddie made, watch it, see it. You see that I'm right, Bubbler. They were the greatest.
Queen at Live Aid in 1985 is celebrated as the greatest live performance by a musical act ever. Despite their divided critics, Queen were and still remain one of the most popular and recognizable rock bands of all time. Over 3 decades and 300 million album sales later, we look back on the unlikely combination of one eccentric art student and 3 academics coming together to reshape popular music. It was their energy and power that upheld their reign, and the charisma and passion of frontman Freddie Mercury that transformed them from small-town fame to global icons. This is the story of Queen, and how they broke free. Despite his reputation as a British national treasure, Freddie Mercury was born and raised over 7,000 miles away on the East African island of Zanzibar. He was born on September 5, 1946, the firstborn son to parents Bami and Jer Balsara.
I'm sure most people who are Queen fans would just assume he'd been born in England, but in fact he was born in Zanzibar. His parents had come from India.
Mercury's family left the island in 1964 when it gained independence and moved to Feltham, Middlesex. Freddie enrolled in art college and began to cultivate his own look that stood out from the hippie crowd of the times. Freddie developed a reputation for his charisma and flamboyance throughout college. By the time he moved to London in the late 60s, he had set up a second-hand clothes stall in Kensington Market. It was here he met Brian.
You used to listen to everybody you could get your hands on, you know, you pick up all the records and copy them and kind of competition to see who could play them fastest and earliest. We're listening to rhythm and blues records, you know, so it was very cool to say, oh yeah, well, of course I don't really like the modern beat music. I like Chuck Berry and I like Bo Diddley and everything, but secretly everyone was going home and studying their Hank Marvin licks, you know.
Brian Harold May was born on July 19, 1947, to parents Harold and Ruth. Growing up in Feltham, Middlesex, he took great interest in his father's work as an electronics engineer and the potential to combine it with his own love for music.
He learned ukulele, and then his dad helped him construct this famous guitar.
When Brian met Freddie, he was in a band called Smile, with fellow students Roger Taylor and Tim Steffel.
He was studying science, got steered into astronomy, and became a serious astronomer.
The earlier band, which had not included Freddie or John, was a band called Smile, and if you see pictures of Brian and Roger, it's pretty much still, you know, hippie time.
It is very interesting that Freddie pursued the group. He thought he belonged in this group, and he made himself immediately known when Tim Steffel dropped out. That was a big mistake.
Freddie immediately made his mark, changing his own surname and the band's name from Smile to Queen.
Farrakh wanted to be called Freddie. Freddie, being interested in music from an early age, would have known that there had never been a pop star called Farrakh. And so suddenly there was, instead of Farrakh Bulsara, Freddie Mercury, and of course Mercury is the messenger of the gods. It's a very grand and exalted name. This is an amazing case of personal reinvention, but it worked.
The band first began making a name for themselves on the university music circuit. In 1971, John Deacon joined the band as their bass player, now complete as the Queen we all know and love.
You can see it's this microscopic stage and Freddie is performing like he's already in a stadium. I mean, he's big, he projected big.
We were told that there was a really good band playing at Imperial College, and I went along with some of my friends from EMI and one or two other people, not really knowing what to expect. And I was absolutely blown away. I don't think I've ever seen a new band play like that. The place was absolutely packed. They really worked the audience. And I mean, we all just stood there with our mouths opened and were just stunned. And of course, they wrote their own material. The lyrics were wonderful. The melodies were fantastic. I think on the whole, they were streets ahead of the other young bands around at the time.
And I went to see him, I think maybe the Marquee Club or one of those clubs, and I fell in love with them. I thought, these guys are going to be big, monster big. But more Freddie, not knocking Brian May, my monster mate, and Roger Taylor, who I love, and John Deacon, well, I don't love John, half a kiss John, is even in those early days, Freddie stood out. He stood out for me, he was the star, he was the, you know, he loved it.
They got to work on their first studio album. Once recorded, they began pitching their 4-track demo to record companies up and down the country.
The very act of receiving a demo is not one that thrills someone in the record business, which is why a lot of demos do go unheard. The heroes are the people like John Peel who actually listen to everything. So it would take some further time from just the act of making the demo to it having any impact at all.
By chance, as Queen were rehearsing one day, producers John Anthony and Roy Thomas Baker from London's Trident Studios walked past and heard the band playing. They knew they had found something special, and soon after, Queen signed a management contract with Trident. But they needed to find a record label. Their manager went to EMI and pitched the band to Roy Featherstone. Even though they liked the sound, they were at first hesitant because it fell somewhere between the emerging prog rock and the latest trend, glam rock.
Basically, we got a set of copy tapes, and we weren't quite sure what to make of it because it fell between a lot of things that were going on at that time.
Glam rock was a musical movement in Britain that emerged in the early 70s, and a movement Queen took great inspiration from. Artists like David Bowie, T-Rex, and Roxy Music created tunes that steered away from the lengthy epics of prog rock and towards the catchy dance beats of glam rock. And of course, with the beats came the outrageous costumes and performances.
Freddie, of course, was the flavour of the time because he was Mr. Androgyny. I'm sure the others were into it because they were a cute-looking bunch, and it wasn't like you had to, take mincemeat and turn it into a beautiful roast. They were a good-looking bunch. But I think just like the name, I always got the impression that Freddie was the driving force, that if he wanted visually, I don't say that's true of the recording, where clearly Brian was a very important component in the sound, but certainly in the visual thing, he was the one who in the end they would defer to. If he felt strongly enough about it, he could get them to go along with it.
It was a stand against the image of rock as exclusively masculine. It became a world of eyeliner and lipstick. It was liberated. Freddie Mercury took particular inspiration from this movement. He channeled the theatrical drama of glam rock into Queen in both their sound and their aesthetic.
Nobody had that sense of theatricality in rock. Bowie was about to. But Freddie was going to take them into the largest of venues with pomp, costumes, and it's like the reinvention that Elton John did on Reg Dwight. Reg Dwight had been the piano player in groups that had gone basically nowhere. So, new identity, Elton John, and he wears the costumes. It's like he's shot out of a cannon, and with Bernie Taupin, the great songs, the great band, and people take him as they see him. They don't think, oh, he was struggling for a few years, Reg. No, they don't do that. They don't say of Freddie Mercury, oh yeah, Larry Lurex, or whatever previous details they might stumble upon. They just think, Queen, Freddie Mercury, look at him stomp across that stage. He owns this place, and he's wearing these robes. My gosh, what a regal figure. The band is called Queen. Nobody gave the band the name Queen. Nobody imposed the name on them. Freddie suggested it. They accepted it. And they presented themselves to the world in that way. And the world accepted them on that basis.
You have a very extrovert stage act by any standards. Will you be able to go on with...
You mean I flaunt it?
You're over the top.
No. Because there are certain things that I use in my stage act, which I know automatically I'll get a certain reaction because I know I've been there before.
They were impressive, and they were impressive because of their ambition and their confidence, especially Freddie's confidence.
The response to Queen's early work was promising, but the press weren't so sure what to make of them, especially Freddie, who was undoubtedly the center of attention.
The band, and Freddie in particular, his very flamboyance, if you like, invited negative comments.
And so this is when the New Musical Express famously asked, is this man a prat? When he'd said that his job was to bring ballet to the masses.
Some people were incredibly rude about them. At one point, I believe there was actually a blacklist of journalists they wouldn't speak to because some people, for no apparent reason, just took against them.
Somebody had obviously listened to the records and would say, well, look at the state of this lot, and they're pretentious, and this, that, and the other. I remember the others three being a little bit concerned about it, and Freddie said, of course we're pretentious. I mean, We don't give a damn. We're fabulous.
Freddie Mercury was showbiz bubbler. He should have been in pantomime, really, you know, as one of the ugly sisters, or you know. And boy, you was ugly, Freddie. I loved you, but you were ugly.
He did not have a classic pin-up look.
Big teeth and everything, but he wasn't really. He weren't no Brad Pitt bubbler.
Tell you what's interesting with Freddie was his overbite. You know, because he had the overbite. If you look in all my pictures of him, you'll see his lips are closed because he was very self-conscious about the overbite, and we made sure that before I took the shot, his lips were closed. And I remember saying to him at one point, you know, with your money, you could do what you want. But he had these 4 extra teeth at the back, you see. But he didn't want to, so why don't you have them taken out? And he said, well, no. He said, because I think that'll affect my palate and my range. So whether it would have or it wouldn't have, I haven't got a clue. But that was what he believed, that it would have affected his voice. And of course he did have the most extraordinary vocal range. So maybe he was right.
I think Freddie always really wanted to give a show. I think in some ways a lot of his life was a show.
On stage, he was no less than a star. His stellar vocals and elaborate performances earned Freddie legendary status.
When asked to think of a verb to describe Freddie on stage, I think of strut, like a peacock. Just strutting across the stage. Not afraid to dominate, because he knew it was for fun.
He felt he had a relationship with the audience, and that even if it was just for those few moments, he absolutely loved them, and I think it was mutual.
He realized his voice was like an instrument. Now, there's one thing that he did have going for him, which even he couldn't have known, which was volume. Freddie's voice can be heard. He had a great sense of projection.
I think it was a unique sound. And I still, to this day, I defy anybody not to know when one of his songs comes on the radio.
The release of Queen's first single didn't break ground as well as everyone had hoped.
The record comes out, the first single, Keep Yourself Alive, and I'm plugging it. Got a few plays, not monster, quite a few plays, but not many. Not enough to even get it into the breakers in the chart. Completely failed, completely. I thought, Ariel, you schmuck.
Keep Yourself Alive sold poorly, but EMI thought that touring the band might be the solution.
That was when we got them onto the Mott the Hoople tour. The deal was that Mott's management wanted $2,000 to put a band onto the tour. They thought Queen was a good fit.
Queen certainly made this a double bill of valid acts.
We were very, very happy with it. You're always fearful of seeing the audience disappear to the bar the moment the support act comes on if they don't go down well, and they kept the audience, and there were lots of sighs of relief and shaking of hands and saying, well, this looks good.
But I didn't think they were a superstar act. Why not? Because they themselves hadn't found out yet what made them really special.
During their tour with Mott the Hoople, Queen met photographer Mick Rock.
I was impressed. I mean, they had power and they had melody. And I went, whoa, Ziggy Stardust meets Led Zeppelin.
They played him some of their latest songs.
They wanted a piece of this glam image. They wanted a black and white theme, and they wanted to feature the band. This is a band that hadn't made the record label any money, and they were already bossing them around and getting what they wanted, and they wanted to feature the band. So that was my brief. Afterwards, I sat with Freddie, and I showed him this picture of Marlene Dietrich and suggested that that should be the approach for the black shot of the band. And he loved it. I mean, whether it was the shot or whether it was the fact that it was Marlene and Dietrich, I shall be Marlene, you know. I mean, he immediately responded.
But the foundation really was Keep Yourself Alive. Enough to, that foundation was strong, monster strong, enough to Seven Seas of Rye comes out, and then it took off.
got to Queen 2, this was stuff that they'd written since things had started to happen for them. And I think they were full of all that very early enthusiasm. They had so many ideas, I think they could probably have done 10 times the tracks they did. And I think that really comes over. It's the energy, it's the variety of influences. I just think that, in my opinion, it's one of their best albums.
Their first taste of international success came with their third album, Sheer Heart Attack.
Mick Rock had his iconic shot of the heads on the Queen 2 album sleeve, but this was, for me, even better.
This time, they had a concept. What they wanted was to look like they were thrown up on some beach in a desert island somewhere, looking completely whacked out and wasted.
There was something very liberating, very decadent, very free about that album sleeve, and slightly sexually intimidating, showing the members of the group in various stages of disarray.
The discomfort they had to go through on that session was my doing, but was not mine conception.
She says, just like Marie Antoinette, building a remedy for Khrushchev and Kennedy at any time, an invitation you can.
Killer Queen, to me, is the first of the classic Queen tracks, because here Freddie has found his lyrical mode. So many parts of that song are just so clever. Then at the appropriate moments, there's the contrast with Brian's ferocious guitar. This is it. They've also incorporated the high harmonies of Roger. And this was the song that broke them in America.
Killer Queen is open to interpretation, I think. I think the lyrics were allegedly to do with some people they were involved with in their management that weren't their best friends. Who knows? There are all sorts of interpretations. I've heard a lot of stories over the years.
The story is this. He comes to see me one day to play me a record. And he says to me, Eric, want you to hear this? And he puts his record on. It's Killer Queen, goodbye to gelatine, yabba dabba dabba, dabba dabba dooba doo. I said, love it, it's gonna be it, love it, monster's gonna be it. No, you haven't, Eric, you haven't listened to the lyric. I have, no, listen again, put it on again. Keeps Moe Chandon in the fancy cabinet. No, he said, but no, don't listen. The song's about you. About me, Bobula. I'm the Queen, I'm being Freddie, and I can't have you, and that's killing me. So I'm the Queen and you're killing me. And when you hear the lyric now let's do it again, he was right, because I had a fancy cabinet at EMI, which I kept Mayor Chandon on. He keeps Mayor Chandon in his fancy cabinet. Hair like Marie Antoinette. And those days, not now, look at me now, Bubble, I've got no chance. I used to go to Sweeney's in Beecham Place in London, I used to have, they call it a Lamar, perm.
Just like Marie Antoinette.
So I thought Kevin Keegan shtick, long Lamar, like Marie Antoinette.
Yes, well, you're never too old to learn something.
3 or 4 people have verified it. That Killer Queen was written about me.
Gee, I had no idea that Freddie may have been infatuated with him.
Oh, every time I saw him, he said, oh, Eric, I wish I could you, and I love to.
It's possible, but it would have been an odd couple, I'll tell you that much.
It didn't matter that he fancied me or schmancing me. It was an honour.
Dear Eric, he doesn't change, does he?
I attended the playback of the Night at the Opera album. There we were, and we listened to this album, it was a nice album, and then suddenly this 6-minute, what to call it, comes on.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
Everyone was in shock, and they'd never heard anything like it.
Escape from reality.
People were divided about whether it was genius or madness.
I see a little silhouette of a man.
When John Reid and EMI first heard Bohemian Rhapsody, they were incredibly concerned.
I'm told that John Reid didn't want Bohemian Rhapsody to be as long as it was.
In those days, the BBC and various other people wouldn't play anything longer than about 3 minutes.
We had lengthy discussions within EMI about what on earth do they think they're doing? It's so long, it's 3 records in one.
And of course, it turned out to be a work of genius.
Still don't understand it. Still don't understand it. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pull the trigger now. Instead, I'm listening to it. I said, lovely, love, pull the trigger, very sad. Got a hoosh, got a schmoosh, got a koosh. No way. I said to Freddie, I love it. Not going to get it played because we've got no chance. It's like 9-10 minutes long originally. No way.
I was the idiot who said, why don't we ask them to do an edit? And the response was a couple of words. And of course, the rest is history.
The band, and especially Freddie, were determined things be done their own way. He was an artist with a vision that he needed to achieve.
The person who thought it would be a hit was Kenny Everett, who was working on Capital Radio at the time. And it is true that he played it many times.
Bohemian Rhapsody was an international sensation. It changed music and music videos forever.
At that time, we were making promo clips on a regular basis. They would just be lip-synced, miming to a track. And that was really what the music video business consisted of. With Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen quite independently decided that they wanted to do something that would be mold-breaking. It was a highly practical manoeuvre because clearly they weren't going to be able to go on Top of the Pops and do it according to the BBC rules, which involved going in and recording the backing track in 3 hours of studio time that they gave you, and then you do a moody switch of the tapes to give them the real backing track, and go in and mime to it.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, let me go.
We knew that what we would have to do is give them a video that would be so fantastic that they couldn't refuse to use it. The band themselves did the creative work on that, and they came to us with the request, we want to make this video, it's going to be fantastic. Bruce Gowers is going to direct it.
No, we're not doing Mike Mansfield, my dear. We're using Bruce Gowers. I said, no, you're not. I got a deal with Mike Mansfield. Contracted. He does all their EMI videos, from Olivia Newton-John to Cliff Richard to whoever. I've paid about £400 a video. No, Freddie's not on. We ain't going to use. Got to use. Well, who you got? We've had a meeting. Without me being there, how dare you have a meeting without me there about my budget, my money. He said, anyway, we've had a meeting and we're going to use Bruce Gowers and it's going to cost about 4 or 5 maybe at the most. Well, okay, it's a similar price to Mike Mansfield, 400 or 500, but I still don't want to use him. No, 4 or 5,000. I said 4 or 5,000. Are you mad? We can make Gone with the Wind 2 for 4 or 5,000 in those days.
That was a bit of a gulp. There was a sharp intake of breath.
I can remember the aggravation, having round with Freddie Mercury. But they got their way and they did it.
It was the best money you ever spent because it changed the industry.
Freddie said to me, oh, we made a short film yesterday afternoon with Bruce Gowers. Well, that short film happened to revolutionize the way that music is consumed because neither MTV or VH1 would exist had it not been for that short film.
God, was I wrong about that too. What a schmuck. How'd I ever make a living?
Showing it on Top of the Pops galvanized Great Britain. The record went to #1 for 9 weeks.
We thrown in the factory of a morning, because you got the figures from the night before. Hello, Bob, it's Eric here. So-and-so, how did we do? So-and-so record, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, 60. Oh, I knew it. My biggest fear has come true. The kids now are not buying it anymore because it's too long. 60. I knew it. 60, I can't be sure. Eric, 60,000. 60,000. All the records I've promoted. From Silverback to Sex Pistols to Schmiftels and Elton John, all those. I've never had a record sell that much. It was then 60,000, 80,000. I think the biggest daily figure. I mean, you do 80,000 now, you'd be number one for 12 weeks. In those days, it was just... And I think the biggest figure, daily figure we had on Queen probably went to about one day, 130,000.
What he did, of course, was make Night at the Opera a huge album. That enabled them really to smash through the ceiling.
I think they set a precedent that was quickly followed by a lot of other artists.
Many artists learned the lesson and thought, gee, if we could do something like that.
Didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on.
The meaning of the song's lyrics has always been a mystery. Freddie refused to explain them, causing many fans to come up with their own theories.
The music itself was so bizarre that you had no idea what the lyrics meant, and really, who cared?
Tim Rice, the great lyricist, has this theory that it's an attempt to come to terms with being gay and the relinquishment of a previous role.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go?
It's a good theory. I never had a chance to ask Freddie about it.
Some of it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's a great song.
Let him go! Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let me go!
It was a lot of fun to do. I mean, first of all, I was a spectator because the three of these guys were just banging out the backing track with all these gaps in. And we're wondering how it's going to take shape. But it was all in Freddie's mind. I mean, more than anything else, I think, in the Queen repertoire, it was Freddie's brainchild.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we contribute. But basically, he knew exactly what he wanted in there.
If it weren't for Brian throwing in his memorable solo, which is as if he'd been pent up for 3 minutes, and finally they said, okay, your turn. The whole record wouldn't have quite the impact it did.
My abiding memory is over and over and over doing the harmonies,
Yeah,
which we did. We
harmony
would always
parts.
sing each line in unison, double it, triple it, bounce it, sing the next line. It was all very, kind of like a sausage machine after a while.
I thought then, and I think now, that it's a masterpiece. It's an extraordinary work in any age, in any medium, however you want to compare it. It's, in its way, incomparable.
Do you feel that Night at the Opera is perhaps you've reached a climax at a certain stage in your career? Because I believe it's definitely the best that you've ever done.
Thanks. I think it's possibly the peak so far because it's the most successful. But I mean, we hope we're going to get better.
Definitely. It is going to be difficult, especially with Bohemian Rhapsody being as large.
Well, a
seller
kid wrote
as
me
it
a
is.
letter about that and said, I study demonology and satanic things. Why do they use Beelzebub? And I suppose that's a legitimate question.
Why do we use it?
Yeah.
It's just why do we use anything? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean I study demonology and things. I just love the word Beelzebub. It's a great word, isn't it?
Very camp word when you look at it. Actually, the letter was signed with a cloven hoof at the time. What is that?
The same sect. I belong to that.
You're sticking pins in effigies.
The next single that's coming off Night at the Opera is You're My Best Friend, I understand. And already we're getting a lot of requests for that. But it's entirely different in structure to Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's what makes the album attractive to me. Is that
This is
right?
John's song.
John wrote it.
Yes, because I mean that's probably one thing in the group that we all do right, which lends to the variety of our albums. You know, it's a very good thing, I think.
There have been several songs on your albums that have been involved with death and all this sort of stuff. Is that just an accidental thing, or?
That's Freddie's morbid mind, then.
One of my docile moods, actually.
Then came the disaster of Hot Space.
Pressure, pushing down on me, pressing down on you. No man has fallen under pressure.
Under Pressure was the great one-off with David Bowie. In a way, it's a shame that that collaboration was not pursued.
Keep coming up with love, but it's so slashed and torn.
But Hot Space was a real misfire. Having had this great success with Another One Bites the Dust, someone, certainly with Freddie's enthusiastic support, thought, hey, we have the support of the club crowd. Let's make a record with dance elements. It was self-indulgence.
Lick Look at me, I got a case of body language. Look at me, I got a case of body language.
Queen was always more than the sum of its parts. They're all fantastic musicians, but there was something about the magic when the four of them got together that made it something special.
The band reunited for their appearance at Live Aid in 1985. This was to be the performance of a lifetime.
And Live Aid, the last performance Freddie made, watch it, see it. You see that I'm right, Bobbler. They were the greatest.
And everybody said they stole the show. They were so amazing.
There's a thing that everybody, I suppose, is going to be wondering about, the campness of the act. That was one of the things I read in the pop press in England, that the act was a little bit camp and all this stuff.
It's not really camp, you know. It's rock and roll, and it's very visual as well. There's a lot of rock and roll music there. And
I think it's the same as the variety content that we have on the album. We try and put that across on stage. So, I mean, each song that we do has a different sort of meaning to it. So, I mean, you know, it is rock and roll as a sort of label. But within that, I mean, each song has a different
Would you say it was rock and roll with theatre?
Yes, you could call it that. I mean, it's very difficult to label, because each song is in a different sort of category, really. I mean, from the 1920s vaudeville to the heavy, the real sort of raw rock and roll, to the ballad, to you know.
Very much Live Aid that pulled the whole project back together after a difficult couple of albums.
Immediately, their greatest hits soared up the chart. Whereas they had had difficulties beforehand as a group. Did they have a future as a group anymore? Was Freddie going to go solo? Now, the question was completely changed and was, how do we capitalize on this?
I think they realised what they were missing. They'd almost forgotten how wonderful it was to be together and to hold an audience in the palm of their hands and to make people laugh and cry and all the other things you do at a concert. And I think after that, it breathed new life into the band and gave them a few more years of being at the top of the world.
Queen released 3 more albums between 1988 and 1991. They all went straight to #1 in the UK charts. Their reign seemed eternal, but it was about to come to a sudden halt.
It's just a key moment in my life with Freddie and as a gay person. In Heaven, the nightclub, in early 1983, I had returned from the United States, and I said, have you adjusted your behavior in light of the new disease? Because it had no name then. And he said with one of his flourishes, he said, darling, my attitude is, f it. I'm doing everything with everybody. And I had that sinking feeling. There literally is a sinking feeling. I've had it twice in my life, and that was once. And I just felt at that moment, we're going to lose Fred.
Want to live forever.
And I also thought that even though he's putting up this great front, probably in the back of his mind, he thinks it's too late.
I think most people knew that he was ill. I think nobody really knew what was wrong or how long he'd been ill or how bad it was until pretty much at the end.
I guess we knew intuitively something was going on, but it wasn't talked about. He didn't officially tell us until just a few months before.
Now, I know that Freddie did not have a test until the late 80s and did not demonstrate symptoms until the second half of the 80s. But remember, there was a 10-year incubation period, on average, between infection and symptoms. So if you were to say Freddie starts showing symptoms late 80s, if he were an average case, no guarantee that he was, but if he were an average case, he would have been infected late 70s, which makes sense with his lifestyle enthusiasms as he'd conveyed them to me.
Sometimes I get to feel it.
Look at that, those were the days of our lives. And they put out that video, and there he is, and you go, that's not Freddie.
When we were kids, when we were young, things seemed so...
We were sort of trying to support him through it. And I mean, he was incredibly brave at that time.
By that time, he was being pursued everywhere by paparazzi, and you know, the tabloids were speculating on a weekly basis, you know, every time he was seen in public.
The strange thing is, I hadn't spoke to Freddie for about a year or so, but then the reports were coming through. He's got AIDS and he's dying and whatever, and he's in bed. So I was going to go and see him. I put it off, and I was too late, because by the time the week or so was going to come, he was dead.
Freddie Mercury released a statement on November 23rd, confirming the world's deepest fears. I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth, and I hope everyone will join with me, my doctors, and all those worldwide in the fight against this terrible disease. The next day, November 24th, 1991, he died.
All the people that flowered outside his house, and I went there and I stood like in the crowd, and I stood there and having a little tear and watched those flowers, and I put the flowers there too. But I put my sign, "Gonna miss you, mate. Love, Sophie." He knew what it meant.
It was just unbelievably sad, and everybody just simply felt that it was the most colossal waste, because he could still be around and he could still be making great music like so many people are, and he was taken an awfully lot too early.
When Freddie died, it was just incredible. I think it brought home to us how big and how loved he was around the world, because from every country in the world came these tributes.
When Freddie died, that was the end of Queen.
It's the end of a chapter, really, isn't it? You know?
We feel that the last time Queen performed was in '86 at Nebworth, and that is the last Queen show as such. I think that stops with the exit of Freddie, or the transit of Freddie to another place.
He may have passed, but he never gave up the crown, and Freddie's legacy still carries Queen's success to this day. In 2001, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and their song, "We Are the Champions," was voted the greatest rock and roll song of all time. In 2002, a musical based on the Queen songbook was launched, We Will Rock You, that has seen critical and commercial success across the globe. Their album sales continue to soar to this day, well over 300 million.
He could do just about anything.
We get some ideas, but it's very difficult to actually write and sort of, write songs and get them constructed. It's ideas, yes, but to actually write on the road. I know a lot of people can do that, write on the road while they're touring, but I don't think we have.
We don't
yet.
no.
We don't bang them together. You know,
It takes a while.
Hotel rooms, we do sort of gather influences and lots of experiences on the road. Are very useful when you come to write them after being on the road.
We take touring very seriously, really. You get completely consumed by the actual business of playing in theatres, because that's really most of what it's about to us, you know. So you tend not to get involved in writing songs so much as thinking about getting across to the audience that you're playing to.
They went from nothing to something because they believed in themselves and their sound. They'll be revered forever as one of the greatest bands of all time.